Good morning. It is great to have this opportunity to connect with you today, our members and delegates, as we look back at the past year, do the annual business of OFA, and look forward with our eyes on connecting with Ontarians. As we prepared for the AGM, we took a look at the last year, and wow, what a year. Much has been done, both geared to our strategic plan and in response to our changing world. We are proud to review these accomplishments today. As well, we know that today is a closing and opening chapter for our board. 4 of our board members are retiring, 3 new board members have been elected, and a 4th will be decided today by our voting membership. It is wonderful to see the interest in getting involved at the provincial level. But whether it is locally or provincially or even federally, our OFA membership is engaged, active, and involved. There is much to be celebrated. There is also much to consider in the year ahead. Concerns and issues that affect food and farms forever keep us busy. Progress has been made and the fight continues. We keep our eyes on the goals and the needs of farming. And with that, let's get this party started.
Thank you to all of you for coming today. It is a pleasure and an honor to bring our members, delegates, commodity members, media, and friends together to share with you a report on our most recent year at OFA and, of course, conduct the annual business of the organization. Special thank you and recognition to all of our sponsors for today's meeting. You will have noted who they are in the lobby this morning when you logged on and by their logos and videos displayed and shared throughout this meeting. These members, supporters, and partners are instrumental in enabling us to put together this great program and delegate packages for our AGM. I'd just like to take some time to review some technical details for the day now. Movers and seconders have been predetermined for all motions. This does not predetermine in any way the discussion or the results of any vote by delegates. It only serves to expedite the process. Delegates are welcome to participate throughout the day in 2 ways: during the business portion of the meeting through the question box, and during Connecting with Ontario's discussion, as well as through the resolution session this afternoon by phoning in. If you need technical support throughout the day, click the technical support words on the bottom of your screen. Type in the issue you are experiencing, and AV Canada will answer or direct your support request. All voting delegates and Policy Advisory Council members will have the opportunity to ask questions to candidates during the Director-at-Large election portion of the agenda, as well as with some of our speakers today. You'll see a question box is available beside the webcast to the right of your screen. Just like as if we were at a microphone at an in-person meeting, if you are asking a question, please type your county and then your question. Questions will be received by OFA staff moderators and shared. Questions may be edited for clarity, length, or combined with other questions if there are similar themes.
And with that, thank you, Kathy. And we will now turn our attention to a video greeting provided by the Premier of Ontario, Honourable Doug Ford.
Hi, I'd like to bring greetings to everyone attending this year's AGM. You've heard me say it many times before, but I think the world of our great farmers. They have worked tirelessly throughout COVID-19 pandemic to adapt their operations and overcome many challenges to ensure Ontarians continue to have food on the table. And as we look to the future, our farmers and agriculture sector will play a huge role in our recovery and building Ontario. I look forward to continuing working together to create a brighter future for the sector and rural communities across our province. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Premier. We appreciate the kind words, and we look forward to continuing our work with you and the Ontario government to ensure the agri-food sector and the entire food value chain in the province remains strong, viable, and profitable. And I now pass it back once again to General Manager Kathy Lennon to explain the voting procedures.
If you are a voting delegate with us here today, you will have received login credentials and a link by email last week. In order to vote, enter your elector ID and password on the voting screen below the live stream. After discussion on a motion is completed and the motion is discussed, I will direct you to go to the voting page to cast your ballot. Click on the Next Vote button and the Activate ballot will appear in blue. Click the blue ballot to open it, choose your option, and click Continue. Confirm your answer. You will see a green success check mark when your answer has been received. Balloting will begin when the question is called. All votes will be tallied instantaneously and results shared on screen when called by the chair. If you experience technical difficulties voting, please call the number displayed on the top of this slide.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to do a test vote. And I want to assure everyone that you must vote on this particular question, as it will determine how many voting delegates are in attendance and help us to identify any issues and resolve them as quickly as possible. So if you'll take a look at your screen, in 2021, OFA launched a public awareness campaign called Homegrown, focused on protecting Ontario's farmland. How would you rate your level of awareness of this campaign? So vote 1 for very low, tell me more. Vote 2 for mediocre, I've seen it, but I need more information. Or 3, very high, I know it inside out. Please vote. And there you see it. Many of you, actually the majority, have quite a good knowledge of it. And if you don't, today is the day. We're going to talk a little more about our Homegrown campaign. Thank you for voting. Just as a reminder, there's going to be about 90 seconds per vote. You should see a countdown on your screen as it happens. And with that, I would like to remind voters as we go through some of the motions that movers and seconders were predetermined ahead of time to keep the meeting efficient. And now we have the first motion of the day, that the agenda be approved. Mover is Diane Booker from Gray and seconder Bill Parks from Kent. And Tyler, just for good process, do we have any questions?
It doesn't appear we have any questions on this.
Very good. Then with that, I'll call the question. Please vote. And with that, that carries, and we will begin our day. Just one other piece of housekeeping. If you are on data on the spot and you are ready for the next vote, please press the button that says next vote, and that will bring up the next place to go to the next motion. With that, I pass it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Peggy. This past 20 months have not been easy for anyone. When the OFA office packed up their desks and headed home to work virtually like many, I thought that this was something we'd endure for weeks, not months, and not years. While there are many days over the past 20 months that I'd like to forget completely, and I'm sure you would too, I am incredibly proud to be before our members, delegates, and special guests today to share with you the highlights of the past year for the OFA. I watched this video for the first time on Friday, and I hope it fills you with all of the same feelings that it did for me.
We need to highlight some of the challenges that trespass on property demonstrates for farmers.
Every subdivision takes away farmland.
A campaign called Homegrown, launched by the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, is working to protect the future of farming.
We lose 175 acres a day of prime agricultural land in Ontario.
Farmland is becoming increasingly scarce.
The Ontario Federation of Agriculture says there have been 1,800 farm vehicle reported incidents in the past 5 years.
Farmers take great pride in their properties and the crops they grow that provide food, fiber, and fuel for Ontario and beyond.
Long advocated for better mental health services for rural communities.
You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you
Trespass is an important issue and needs to be taken very seriously.
To expand the University of Guelph's In the Know program.
Rain usually makes grain, that's the saying in farming.
It's where we feed our cities, our province, and the world.
In farming, we know what it is to flex. The weather isn't perfect. A critical piece of machinery breaks down. Our employees can't come in because they aren't feeling well today. We learn to pivot. We learn to face challenges head on and think outside of the box. We tend to have a very much get her done kind of attitude. And we continue to grow great food, fuel, and fiber for Ontario and beyond. This year at OFA has been similar. It has been unique, to say the least. In the midst of pandemic lockdowns, extreme weather, and anything but business as usual, OFA staff, board, and executive have remained dedicated and continue to work hard, more often than not remotely this year, to represent the interests of farm families and to secure a better future for you, our members. We have learned and grown and adapted. Perseverance and hard work have yielded a bounty of results for our agri-food supply chain. Regardless of external factors, we have doubled down on our lobbying efforts in pursuit of Farms and Food Forever. And we saw huge wins pertaining to rural broadband, mental health, a number of government investments and funding, and many more ways we've partnered with others. We are happy to review these accomplishments with you here today. Similar to farm life, OFA's work is never done, but it is good to review once in a while and see that our efforts are not in vain. They actually yielded a lot of fruit this year. As we near the end of 2021, our staff and board of directors are eager to continue transitioning back to in-person events and activities as appropriate. I look forward to the day that we can all be under the same roof, discussing resolutions and priorities for the year ahead. I also know that some of the lessons learned and the technologies tested will continue to have a role as we connect in new ways. Both have a place in the OFA future. We are looking forward to a new year full of possibilities. We will continue to work hard for our strong, dynamic sector that feeds families across Ontario, this country, and the world. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing with that video with us. It's an opportunity to collect 365 days worth of activities in 10 minutes. Despite a global pandemic that has perhaps changed our lives and businesses forever, this organization didn't miss a beat. And with that, I'd like to pass the meeting over to OFA Vice President Mark Reeser for the next portion of the meeting. I do just want to add a note for those of you that are our voting delegates online. We've heard from you that there is a bit of delay with internet and broadband across the province, so we will be extending the voting period from 90 seconds to 120 seconds in order to ensure we get all of the votes across the province. Over to Mark.
Good morning, everyone. It's time to move into the official business section of our meeting. And I would remind you that the 2020 AGM minutes were distributed in your digital workbook link, and I hope you've had a look at them. So we'll begin with a motion to approve the 2020 minutes, moved by Ashley Napton from Lanark and seconded by Michelle Denard of Russell, that the 2020 annual general meeting minutes be approved. And again, I would remind you that if you have questions, please put them in the chat box, and Tyler will refer them afterwards. So just take a second if you have questions and put them in the chat. And I'll ask Tyler if he's received any.
No questions at this time. Mark, you may proceed.
In that case, we'll ask you to vote. So please go to your dots display, and you have 2 minutes to vote. Go ahead. Thank you very much. That motion has been passed unanimously. We'll now move on to the financial statement and the auditor's report, and I will pass the screen over to John Lazarus, our Director of Finance and Administration. Go ahead, and John.
Good morning, and thank you, everyone. If you can put up the member statistics slide. Thank you. As you'll notice, these are the member statistics as of November the 8th, 2021. It's only 10 months so far of 2021. We're slightly lower in the gross FPR registrations. However, the refunds are much lower by 88. So fewer people are asking for refunds is good news. And right now we're plus 18 members as opposed to 2020 is 12 months. We're only showing 10 months. So we still have 2 more months to go, and they're coming in about 20 a week. So we should clearly surpass our 2020 numbers, which is great news. Turning to the actual financial statements, I'm going to start at the second last page, page 19. This is the schedule of income. The first half is the membership, total membership fees for the organization. It's quite flat. It's $8.7 million versus $8.5 million. It's actually an increase of $179,000. The rest of the categories are quite normal for us. Turning to the other income section, you'll see it's actually $447,000 more. Last year we were at $1.7 million, and this year we were at $2.1 million. So looking at some of the lines in the other income section, the second line, the investment income fair value, that is the investments actually changing in the market. So the market actually goes up, the investments go up in the market, we record that increase. The second line is the investment income amortization costs. That is the true sales of our investments. So if we sold some stocks or we sold bonds, we actually made $287,000 on selling stocks and bonds. And And the next line is a very important line, the Cooperators Group Limited Royalty Program. You'll see there we actually earned dividends from cooperators of $664,000, and last year was $579,000. So that's an indication of the business the members do with cooperators and OFA does with cooperators. The more business we do there, the more loyalty payments we get. So overall, in the income section, we have $626,000 more income to the organization. And before I go on to the expenses, I'll see if there's any questions in the chat box.
Thanks, John. There's a question here from Jay Cunningham in Kent County. Jay says, given that we continue to exceed our budget estimate in net revenue year over year, and that we've amassed a significant retained earnings position, has there been given any thought to either reducing membership fees or distributing more to the counties, or possibly both? What forward projections have been done for the organization?
Good questions. We actually did a 5-year projection I did for the board at the last board meeting, showing that going forward for 5 years, we will be eating into that surplus. So that's sort of the board plan is going forward. With the inflation actually now running at 4%, we will probably be eating into that surplus faster than before. Your first question was on the membership fees. The membership fees are part of legislation. We really can't reduce those membership fees. That's legislation that can't happen. And on the expenses side, I will be getting to those on the next page. But the board is actually looking at some serious initial programs to be running. One of them would be a slow-moving vehicle campaign, and that is an unbudgeted item right now, but the board passed it, and that could eat into some of the more expenses and more of the surplus. Any other?
John, just as a follow-up, Jay is just asking for more information about the 5-year projection. Is that 5-year projection shareable with the membership?
I have to check with the board. I don't see why not. Basically, it was a flatline revenue projection going out 5 years, and most of the expenses would be going up 1%, and some of them went up 3%, and that was eating into the surplus as we went forward to 5 years. What I've always cautioned the board is the further out you go on projections, the less reliable the projections would be. So we'd have to check with the board and see if we could actually share that.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that detailed response. As of right now, I don't see any other further questions in the chat, so we may proceed.
Thank you. I'm turning now to the very last page of the income statement, which is page 20. And that is a listing of the expenses. I'm zeroing in on the middle column, the actual column for 2021. Starting in the first group of expenses, the organizational activities came in at $2,066,000 versus $2.4 million last year. It's actually a decrease of $364,000 in the operating expenses. This year was actually a full year impacted by COVID. As opposed to 2020, it was only about a half a year impacted by COVID. And if you look at the very first line, as an example, the convention listed there in 2020 is $281,000. That was the actual convention of 2019. The last convention we did in 2020, of course, was virtual. That only cost $74,000. So there's the impact. It was actually $207,000 just on convention alone, the impact of COVID. Turning to the departmental expenses side, that again is down $120,000 from $5.2 million down to $5.1 million. So a $120,000 decrease in the departmental section. Turning to the grants and dues section, this is the third section on the schedule of expenses. Zeroing in again on the middle column, it's $863,000 total for 2021 versus $672. So it's an increase of $190,000 in grants and dues, and that was intentionally done by the board in order to spend more money in that area. And I'll highlight sort of just 2 lines there. The donations and contributions line is way up at $127,000. The majority of that was funds we sent for the drought relief program. So that's a good news story. And then part of the question earlier, how we're going to spend some extra money. The board has set aside 2 projects, the county special funding project for all counties, and then a special small Federation County fund. And both, every sort of county is trying to apply for that money. So we are actually trying to spend more if they're good. Slow down. All right, so any questions on the expense side? Okay, these 2 pages then summarize into a statement of operations, which you'll see on screen. Again, closing in on the middle column, our total income for the organization is $11,342,000 versus last year at $10,790,000. That's an increase of $552,000 on the income side. And then the overall expenses for the organization at $8.5 million versus $9 million. So the actual expenses are way down. And that has left us with a surplus, which the first question was asked about. Last year we had surplus of $1.7 million, and this year we have a surplus of $2.7 million. So I'll entertain a motion by the chair, and then we can do some more questions. We can? Okay.
Report next.
Okay.
And then a motion for both.
All right. We're going to switch then to the auditor's report. We have Jean Pritchard online, who is the auditor from BDO.
Morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here today to present the audit report issued by BDO Canada LLP for the financial statements prepared by the Ontario Federation of Agriculture for the year ended August 31st, 2021. I'm going to ask you to refer to the independent auditor's report, which appears on pages 1 and 2 of your financial statement package. The first 2 paragraphs provide our opinion, which is that the financial statements of your organization relating to the 12-month period ending August 31st, 2021 present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Federation and the results of its operations and its cash flows in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. The next section outlines the basis upon which we rendered our opinion. We are required to plan and conduct an audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. We confirm that we, BDO, have fulfilled our responsibilities in accordance with these requirements. The third section details the responsibilities of both the management of the Federation and the board of directors of the organization. It is important to note that management is responsible for preparing the financial statements and for making sure the Federation is ensuring that sufficient controls are in place to enable them to prepare statements that are free from material misstatement. In turn, your board of directors is responsible for overseeing this process. The next section outlines our responsibilities as your auditors. Our job is to obtain reasonable assurance as to whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. An audit report gives a high level of assurance in this regard. We do this by exercising our professional judgment and by considering the risks in your organization, as well as the controls you have in place to mitigate the various risks. We evaluate the appropriateness of your accounting policies and the reasonableness of any estimates made in the formulation of your financial statements. We also ensure that the note disclosures are complete and accurate. And finally, we communicate with those charged with governance, being your audit committee and board of directors, about our audit plan and any deficiencies we have found during the course of the audit. We thank John Lazarus and his team for their help and cooperation this year during the audit. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Jean?
No questions at this time, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. I have a motion to receive the financial statements and auditor's report, moved by Josephine Martinson Hempstead from Simcoe, seconded by Tom Dolson from Peel, that the financial statements and auditor's report for the period of September 1st, 2020 to August 31st, 2021 be approved. And I will ask again for questions. Please put them in your chat box.
Thanks, Mark. Just waiting for a couple minutes just to see if anything comes in, but at this time we have no further questions.
Seeing that there are no questions, I will call the question. Please vote in your dots screen. Thank you very much, everyone. That motion is passed. And we'll move on to the next motion, which is the appointment of the auditor. So moved by Paul Maurice from Simcoe and seconded by Mike Merriam from Stormont, that the accounting firm BDO Dunwoody be appointed as auditors for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And again, if there are any questions, please put them in the chat. Tyler is indicating that there aren't any, so I will call the question. Please vote. So thank you very much. That motion is passed, but there was a question, and I will ask Tyler to share that with us.
Thanks, Mark. This question is regarding the board. When was the last time this engagement in terms of like an RFP for the audit and financials was reviewed by the board? And I believe our general manager, Kathy Lennon, will be taking this question.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the question. So the audit committee of the OFA, as well as the board of directors, did actually discuss this in this most recent fiscal year, and that is the appointment of the auditors on an annual basis. It is a good business practice to review and potentially send out a request for proposals for all of your external third-party services, and the board does in fact have a policy on that with respect to accounts in excess of $50,000 per year. In this particular case, as it relates to the auditors, due to the complexities of the working scenario of 2020 and 2021, where we have been primarily working from our homes, as well as the auditor doing the same, we determined as a board that this was not the right year to seek a change in the auditors, in that we've been able to do a lot of work back and forth virtually and not on site in the OFA offices, but it will be on the agenda for future discussion by the audit committee and the board.
So thank you, Kathy. It is time to elect an election chair, as we have an election for director at large. And the motion is moved by Dave Bolton from Middlesex and seconded by Gary Martin from Lambton, that Kathy Lennon be appointed as elections chair. Any questions before we move on? And I will call the question. Please vote. Thank you very much, everyone. That motion is passed. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Mary Robinson, President of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. For many years, Mary has been a leading advocate for the agricultural industry, delivering witness testimony and key messaging at provincial and federal levels to senior government officials. She holds a degree in economics and business and has worked in Canada and Scotland in all facets of the potato industry. Mary joined the PEI Federation of Agriculture Board in 2008 and led the Federation as president from 2015 to 2017. She became CARC's first female chair in 2017 and currently serves on the board of directors for the World Federation of Agriculture. We welcome Mary here today to provide us with an update on the many critical activities of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture over the past year. Welcome, Mary.
Thanks for those kind words, Mark. I appreciate that. And thanks for the invitation to be here today with you all. I think we do have a slide presentation. If we could pull that up, that would be marvelous. And someone is going to advance the slides for me, as I'm not good at rubbing my belly and patting my head at the same time. So thanks very much. I will go to the next slide, please. So this morning I am going to do a little run through on, as Mark said, some of the key CFA 2021 activities. So I'll try to keep this brief, as I know time isn't really on our side. Next slide, please. So we'll start with business risk management. Next slide. CFA was pleased to see the first major investment into Canadian BRM in nearly a decade, with FPT ministers agreeing to remove the reference margin limit and reintroduce nearly $100 million a year into agri-stability. We continue to see support for this proposal from the federal government and are pleased to see a number of provinces adopting this measure with their own provincial funds. CFA's Agriculture Policy Framework Committee that has been working away on further recommendations for BRM programs to develop a suite of recommendations for the next policy framework. Next slide, please. And the next policy framework. Next slide. CFA has emphasized the importance of additional funding for the next policy framework as a key priority, not just to keep up with the pace of inflation, which we failed to do, but also for growth in the sector and to respond to the additional public policy demands placed on farmers relating in particular to environmental goods and services. In addition to highlighting a specific policy priority around increasing recognition and support of ecological goods and services, CFA has raised the need for a new program that would provide simple, direct financial support to farmers for demonstrating compliance with environmental BMPs. This would be a new programming pillar for the policy framework, as national consistency in the level of support is important, while provincial flexibility as to the appropriate BMPs is also necessary to ensure it's tailored to regional needs and flexible enough to evolve with the sector. We've highlighted that this support should be commensurate with the 2 to 3% of farm revenue that supports ecological goods and services in the US and EU respectively. Next slide, please. Labor. Next slide. Since the COVID pandemic began, CFA has been spending considerable time on working with senior officials at ESDC, AAFC, and Immigration to ensure the temporary foreign worker program continues to enable as much predictability, reliability, and efficiency as possible during a time that has really challenged international logistics. CFA co-chairs a temporary foreign worker program service delivery working group with Service Canada that continues to be an effective vehicle for raising these issues and providing a collaborative venue for industry and government officials to explore potential solutions. Taking a step back, we are aware that the overall labor picture for agriculture and agri-food in general is extremely challenging, and that there's need for a more holistic approach. That's why we're pleased to see the Future Skills Center support CARC to the tune of $2 million over 2 years for a national workforce strategy for agriculture and food and beverage manufacturing. CFA is a key partner in this initiative, sitting on the steering committee, and we are encouraged to see an action-oriented approach behind this. This isn't going to be simply another report that sits on a shelf, but will identify and prioritize actionable solutions that can begin right away. Next slide, please. Grocery Code of Conduct. Next slide. In the fall of 2020, CFA and a coalition of other grocery suppliers came together to call for a grocery code of conduct. And this was really sparked by Walmart announcing that they would be introducing a supplier fee in the summer of 2021 to offset the additional costs they took on during COVID. However, it's the culmination of a much longer standing set of concerns regarding unfair practices and unilateral fees being placed on farmers that left farmers facing uncertainty and additional costs they couldn't predict or pass along. In 2020, ministers formulated a federal provincial working group to look into this matter, who released a report in July 2021 calling on industry to come together and develop a code that responded to the issues brought forward. CFA has been intimately involved in the development and design of this industry-led process and continues to work closely with commodity partners to ensure there's a strong and distinct farm voice at this table. Next slide, please. Environment and climate change. Next slide. Agriculture, climate change, adaptation, mitigation, and innovation were heavily featured in Budget 2021. The federal government committed $200 million over 2 years for projects accelerating emission reductions by improving nitrogen management, increasing adoption of cover cropping, and normalizing rotational grazing. $60 million was also allocated over the next 2 years for the Nature Smart Climate Solutions Fund to target the protection of existing wetlands and trees on farms, including through a reverse auction pilot program. An additional $10 million was also pledged over the next 2 years for powering farms with clean energy under the Agriculture Clean Technology Program. Next slide. Through our work with the Agricultural Carbon Alliance, CFA has continued advocacy at cabinet level to ensure that government cost shares behind these programs are supported enough to ensure participation from small farms. CFA has also lobbied to ensure that 10% of revenue from the carbon tax is made available to farmers for climate adaptation and innovation projects through the Climate Action Incentive Fund, which has been closed for application since before the pandemic. In more positive news, 2020-2021 saw the largest cattle methane reduction project conclude in Alberta. The project used a cattle feed additive called 3-NOP to reduce methane by between 30 and 80%. Next slide, please. CFA continues to advocate for carbon tax exemption on propane and natural gas used for grain drying and livestock heating and cooling. We testified on the need for exemptions under Bill C-206 to the House Standing Committee on Agriculture this spring. We also addressed exemptions through series of cabinet level meetings this summer through our work co-chairing the Agricultural Carbon Alliance. Next slide, please. CFA successfully advocated for aggregate levels of compliance for land use and biodiversity requirements under the proposed Clean Fuel Standard. Some important upcoming dates include final CFS regulations are expected to be published in late 2021, and regulations for the carbon offset system are expected to debut in late 2021 as well. Next slide, please. John Barlow's private members bill has passed first and second reading and was passed with amendments by the House of Commons Ag Committee. CFA is now waiting to see how they treat the bill when Parliament resumes, with our next steps contingent on the outcome of that process. Next slide. As everyone knows, due to the drought in the prairies, CFA has been organizing a new Hay West initiative. We have received donations from OFA, thank you, of $50,000 and a $50,000 donation from FCC. CN has committed up to $250,000 as well. And I understand the PEI provincial government is putting some money into. As of November 2021, CFA has shipped 5.5 million pounds, and there's still another 50 million pounds available. The biggest obstacle in shipping more hay comes from government funding not arriving at a timely basis, and the process to acquire that funding being incredibly cumbersome. Next slide, please. And now I'd just like to touch on some recent and upcoming events. On November 8th, CFA, as well as 4 other agriculture groups, met with the FPT ministers to present our priorities for Canadian agriculture. CFA had 20 minutes to present, while the other groups each had 5. We found this to be a very productive meeting, as the inclusion of the other groups showed our commonalities and displayed a unified voice to the ministers. We've decided that the CFA AGM will be held live at the Delta in Ottawa from February 23rd to 24th, and registration will be available mid-December. The CFA Agricultural Leaders Debate held on the night of the federal election was a great success, with an increased viewership of 150% compared to our debate in 2019. Our consumer-focused newsletter, Food for Thought, will be releasing its 3rd issue in December. If you're interested in providing content for these newsletters, please contact the CFA communications team. Next slide, please. Thank you for having me today. And if you wish, I don't know if we have any time, but I'm certainly open to questions.
Thank you so much, Mary. Unfortunately, we're running a little bit behind schedule and there isn't much time for questions. So I'm going to say thank you again for what you do on behalf of agriculture across Canada. And we look forward to working with CFA and continuing our partnership in the future. Thanks again, Mary. And I'll now turn the meeting over to Kathy Lennon, our elections chair.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Mary. It is a pleasure to work with you, Mary, and with the CFA team throughout the year on so many priorities of OFA members that are championed at a national level. This now takes us to the Director-at-Large election portion of the agenda. The OFA is pleased to have 3 strong candidates before you today, putting their names forward to be your next Director-at-Large. This position is for a 3-year term on the board. The candidates running in today's election in alphabetical order are Erica Miles, Barclay Knapp, and Sarah Wood. Each of the candidates have pre-recorded a video to play here today with their opening remarks. There will be a 1-800 number displayed on the bottom of your screen today while you listen to them speak. Once they are finished, you are invited to call in and ask questions of the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. The videos will be played back to back, and the order that the candidate videos will be played has been chosen at random, and it will be as follows: Erica, then Sarah, then Barclay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erica Miles, and I'm asking for your vote as your next Director-at-Large. I'm a 6th-generation farmer from Leeds County. My background is in dairy, beef, and crops. My family farm is a cow, calf, and crops operation, and I help there alongside my mother and my siblings. My husband and I have our own operation raising Herefords. I'm also a comic artist and author. You may be familiar with my children's book, Just a Farmer, or my online comic series, Farm Girl Strips, which I will be talking about at FarmTech 2022 in January. I have a long history with OFA. Long before I was a member myself, I attended meetings and lobbying events with my mother. Her passion, dedication, and selflessness rubbed off on me, and I knew that I wanted to do the same work. I have served the past 5 years on the board of my local county and have been a very active member, providing design work and social media upkeep. I am incredibly proud of the work my home county does and the events we put on, such as the agriculture event, where I organized and facilitated a coloring contest with all the schools in the county, as well as marketing for the event, and farm safety days, where I secured small safety kits with our logo on them for participants. I was asked to participate in an OFA lobby day at Queen's Park. That experience was very exciting for me. I met many politicians, spoke on issues that were important to our members, and took a ton of notes. I want to serve as an OFA Director-at-Large because I am a passionate and dedicated individual who wants to help champion what farmers need from our governments, the media, and other stakeholders. I want to be a voice on this board who represents farmers that have to find innovative ways to get into agriculture, like myself. As time goes by, farming keeps changing, and so does the identity of the farmer and their needs. I firmly believe that the board of directors should be as diverse as the farmers it represents. Becoming a mother has also changed my perspective and made my resolve to push the government to help us even stronger. I look at my son and I ask myself, how can I improve farming for the next generations? Being a farm kid should be a great experience. I want him to live a full life, have the option to farm someday, and be excited about it. OFA's board, directors, staff, and counties rose to the huge challenge presented by the pandemic by doing their best to ensure the safety of our staff and board members. Online meetings, providing resources, and keeping us all up to date with COVID-19 protocols. OFA joined the 2021 Hay West initiative and contributed to Hay North in response to drought and supported mental health initiatives as well as others. This is the sort of team that I would love to be a part of. In closing, I want to humbly ask for your vote as your next Director-at-Large. I want to listen to every farmer and every perspective, from Essex to Prescott and Russell, from Kenora to Niagara. I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to listen, but most importantly, I'm willing to fight for you like I would fight for my own family and our farming future. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Wood, and today I stand before you and ask for your support as your next director at large. Growing up in Perth County on a dairy and cash crop farm, I had the opportunity to see many sides of agriculture. In 2006, I went to school with the intent to pursue a career in law with no intentions of coming home to help or run the family farm. In 2012, I returned home and in fact have taken over the family farm. I really enjoy traveling and learning and was given this great opportunity to travel with sports and other activities, all the while being encouraged to find my place and do what I loved and enjoyed. Now, farming with my husband, mother, and son, we manage 2,000 acres of crops, and last year added a broiler farm to diversify our operation. The choice to diversify was intimidating, but any major change includes a leap of trusting into the unknown. It should be scary. It reminds us that we set our goals and we work towards our end results together. On our farm, we manage our business with 3 core values: family, innovation, and education. These values help us to assess where we are going, how we set our goals, and how we will achieve our goals. We value family. Working with family, spending time with family and friends is important, but family doesn't just mean our blood relation. Our agriculture community is also our family. It doesn't matter which part of the province we live in, we are all connected and tied together. When we work as a team and family, we are stronger together, being able to tackle challenges, learn from the past, and move forward to a better future, meeting our goals. I feel if we choose to work in our silos, we create isolation, and therefore we are challenged to have a unified voice when speaking with our urban counterparts and also our elected officials. As an ag community, we have a large impact with less than 2% of the population partaking. Therefore, one voice, one common goal for the betterment. We are stronger together. This past year, as president of the Perth County Federation, we took an opportunity to do a Fields to Fork video and have our local commodity groups work with us. Working together to create this video ad was such a great way to build our relationships locally, but also to learn about the challenges and achievements of the other sectors within our local community and what they face. This project reminded me how divided we can be if we do not embrace our differences and strive to be the best that we can be. In the end, we all pitched in to create one video with one common goal in mind, highlighting our agriculture community together as a whole in Perth County. When I was a kid, I watched my parents be actively involved, not only in our day-to-day operations on our farm, but in the community we lived in. I watched what it meant to help and be part of the bigger picture of the ag community and share your ideas, gifts, and talents. And today, I am ready to be that voice. I want to help create a strong future for not only my son, but the next generation and generations to come. Innovation. Innovation can be hard around the board table, but how we are open to decisions and thinking outside the box is not much different than how we make a decision to open and expand our boundaries and try new things in our own businesses. Our goal on our farm has always been to ensure the land is left in better condition than how we took over, with using the best stewardship practices available to us at the time. Our third value is that of education. Every day we have the opportunity to take advantage of that and continue to learn. Whether learning is done during formal years of schooling, local 4-H clubs, the Advanced Agriculture Leadership Program, or my year as Ontario Queen of the Furrow, each has served as an opportunity for the betterment of myself and has challenged me in the ways of my thinking. As a director for the Perth Federation of Agriculture Board, that learning has continued and led to my year as president. given the opportunity to sit on the Agriculture Adaptation Council has only furthered my learning and helped me to open up my mind and how I look at our agriculture industry in an even broader sense. All of these experiences have led to shaping who I am. Every day, I push to be better, who I can become, taking each learning opportunity to continue to grow in acknowledgement of our agriculture community, my family, and my friends. Putting my name forward to be a director on the OFA board, it's also a leap into the unknown, but I know in my heart it's the right choice, taking this opportunity to continue my learning and continue to grow into the leader I am. I am ready to work for our members. I am ready to take on the challenges, and therefore I ask for your support to be your next director at large on the OFA board. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking an interest in OFA's elections. My name is Barclay Knapp. I am from Wellington County, and I am running for the position of Director at Large. Currently, I serve as Wellington Federation of Agriculture's Vice President and Policy Advisory Committee member. In the past, I was the Provincial Junior Farmers Representative on the previous version of the board. I have also worked as OFA's West Region's Member Service Support Representative and helped in member services. To be a director at large means that the entire province is your region. I have been across and back this great province many times and know many of the small places that make Ontario so special. My work to revive junior farmer clubs, serving on the Provincial Junior Farmer Executive, and working to preserve junior farmer history has given me a lot of opportunities and reasons to travel the province and visit the people in every county and most districts. My background in agriculture started on a small dairy farm where Wellington meets Hull, just north of the 401, when my parents took over my grandparents' farm. I participated in every 4-H dairy club I could in South Wellington. Currently, I operate a market garden focusing on providing clients with a weekly share of the harvest of herbs, flowers, and vegetables during the growing season. Last year, I read an article that stated if there were multiple people that thought the same way on a board, then there should only be one of them sitting at the table. A board needs not just a variety of voices, but numerous ways of thinking. From my experience, background, and perspective, I believe I would be an asset on the OFA board. I see 4 main concerns for the future of agriculture in this province: disappearing farmland, the unknowns of farm labor, the separation of farm businesses into different factions, and connecting with urban consumers. OFA has room for all farmers and farm businesses. The size of one's harvest, tractor, credit line, land worked, head that are grazing, or closet of plaid shirts should not form the basis of who should be an OFA member or not. Some of us are lucky to be able to do what we do on a magnificent scale and do it all day long. Some of us work a second full-time job just to be able to help to afford the capital and expenses needed. Everyone is contributing to the same thing: fuel, fiber, drink, and food. Some also provide experiences and recreation. OFA's member signs go on a lot of posts in front of a lot of different farm businesses. What you do or don't have shouldn't matter. OFA has room for all farmers. I want to make sure that that is present at the table. The general public is curious what we do. I have had many conversations with visitors to farmers markets and my clients who come to my family's farm to pick up their box of produce. They don't know the work that goes into making a portion of French fries or understand how the building of new highways affects farmland. We need to spend the time engaging with them. We also need more farm people willing to do so. The urban-rural divide isn't going to get smaller if we wait for them to understand our positions. Try being a farm kid amongst non-farm kids, or work in environments where few have met a real farmer. I answer questions on a daily basis about things I barely think about. We're a minority, yes, but we don't have to be separate from the rest of the population. I look forward to bringing my experiences and perspective to the board. I appreciate the opportunity to give this introduction of myself, and I look forward to your questions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, Erica, and Barclay. You'll see the number there again at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to call in and ask a question. We will be happy to receive them. And in the meantime, I will turn it over to Tyler to get us started.
Thanks, Kathy. This question is regarding your enthusiasm for joining the OFA Board of Directors. How do you plan to balance out your enthusiasm and fresh ideas for OFA and the organization with the history and experience of the existing board?
All right, and we'll start with Erica.
Hi, thank you for the question. So how do I channel my enthusiasm along with the history and everything that's gone on with OFA in the past? I think that given my lifelong experience with OFA, I can connect the two very easily. I find that you can't do things going forward without learning from the past. So you have to take everything into account that's ever been or ever was, that's ever worked, ever not worked, and use that to further excite yourself or bolster your enthusiasm and combine it to create something successful that works. Thank you very much.
Barclay, you're next.
Well, thank you for the question. That's an interesting question. You don't always want to overpower a board with your new voice and your enthusiasm, but you also want to let them know that you do have ideas. I find listening does work a lot and getting a feel of the room, but also meeting with each of the board members one-on-one. I know there's a few new board members that will also be in the same position, and I would also turn to them and also get their ideas as well as to how I could deal with that. And I know some of the board members already personally, and I'm pretty sure that they would be quite honest with me and, you know, how to present myself and how to keep going and what's a little too much, my enthusiasm and what history is there. But that's a very good question, but mostly it's just, I would say, about listening and getting a feel for the room.
Thank you, Barclay. Sarah.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Tyler, for the question. How do I plan to curb my enthusiasm while continuing to learn and listen from the history of our board? I think the big difference is there's two types of listening. There's listening to respond, and there's listening to learn. I intend to listen to learn. I need to listen to learn of the questions and the challenges that we're currently experiencing and how we have dealt with them in the past, what has been successful and what has not been successful. But I think as a new board member, it also opens up the opportunity to ask the tough questions, have those tough conversations, make sure that, yes, those questions may be uncomfortable because it might challenge others' thinking, but that's how we get the best of who we can be. Another way to do it is also to continue to learn. Every time we sit around that board table or we have a conversation with our members, we have an opportunity to learn. We have an opportunity to learn how to do better and the challenges of the past. So that's how I would use my enthusiasm to handle the board.
Thank you, Sarah. And we do have a question from the floor. Jeff Slager from Waterloo. Please go ahead.
Well, good morning. Excuse me, candidates. Good morning, candidates, and thank you so much for running for Director at Large of our great organization, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. My question to you is, tell us about the time when you felt you successfully brought together the interest of different farm groups and also when you felt you successfully brought together the interests of non-farm groups with farmers. Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And for this question, we'll start with Sarah.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question. So one example of us bringing successfully a group of farm organizations together was with our work with the Fields to Fork campaign with the Perth County Federation of Agriculture. So this past year, we had the opportunity to do that video, and we really focused on making sure that our local commodity groups came together. And it was pointed out to us later on that the different sectors share a lot of commonalities, and if we work together, we're stronger together. That video was so successful. It's hard to get other commodities to buy in, but we had no trouble. We reached out, we had those relationships already built with the other commodity groups, and they were on board and ready to participate. We created the video, and the benefit of this was not only it brought our organizations together, but our local economic group within the county has reached out. They want to use the video. They want to use it as promotional stuff. So we're not only touching our farm members, but we're also touching a lot of urban people in the Stratford, Mitchell, St. Mary's, Listowel area who have either moved to the country during COVID or are leaving the cities to get a larger space. So that was a really successful opportunity for us.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, Erica, please.
Hi, thank you, Jeff, for the question. So a great example, I actually have two really good examples that I wanted to use. One was our agriculture event, emphasis on culture, where we organized this event in our local county that had everyone represented, all the commodity groups, and not even just your regular like eggs, dairy, beef, you know, go-tos, like everyone, maple syrup, like the smaller, craftier, out of the box representation was there. And we invited our multiple levels of politicians to come, municipal, federal. We invited them all to come out, and everybody was able to voice them for themselves and show what they do, and also show the public. It was all about the culture of farming and really showing what that was about, to get to know us and then what our needs are. And I think that's really important. And the other is the Let's Talk Agriculture event, which is held at the Ottawa Valley Farm Show by the Eastern region. And it's great because it's at the farm show, but we invite the politicians to come down and staff to come down from Parliament Hill, and then we talk to them. We kind of guide them around to show them specific booths and things, and then we talk to them and we answer their questions. And the last time I was there, I was walking around with Michael Barrett, and we really hit it off because my husband's a lineman and he used to be a lineman, and so we were able to really like build a relationship. And then I weaseled in the agriculture talk. So when you build those relationships, you're able to really have a voice for everybody and talk about things that are important for everyone. But ultimately, having everyone represented in an event like the agriculture event is so key. And even the farm show, just having everybody there to be able to show them this is this and that is that, and that's key for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. And Barclay.
Well, thanks for the question, Jeff. Good to hear from you, and I'll answer your questions backwards. Regards to non-farm groups, telling them about and bringing them together, I believe what the Grand River Racetrack does every year, that the Wellington Federation of Agriculture participates with Pizza Perfect, bringing every grade 3 class in Waterloo and Wellington together to learn about the different components of pizza, and try getting 800 to 1,000 grade 3s over 2 days all together in one room and getting their attention. And we always get to talk about flour with them. It's not as exciting as the crust or the pepperoni or the cheese, but we make it work, and we educate them on that. And that might be their only experience for some of them to have with the farmer. And we do the best job we can, all of us, all the different farmers in Wellington, Waterloo that day, those 2 days. Secondly, about bringing different farmers together for an issue, I would say about 2 years ago, the MTO is proposing to build its new truck inspection station on the west side of the GTA, just outside Aberfoyle, moving it down from Milton. And they're proposing to do it on a floodplain in farmland. I was able to get the farmers and neighbors together at the local old one-room schoolhouse and discuss it, and then walk on their properties and take video of where the water was flowing and compare that to where they actually wanted to put each portion of the weigh stations or the inspection stations. That was the same video that I showed at the Woodstock PAC meeting, I think about 2 years well. And once I showed it to our counselors in our township with Stantec and MTO officer or representatives there, that project's actually been put on hold right now. So I think I did a very good job in bringing everyone together and letting them know about the issue, and then finding the right details that I could show that this was a bad location for the inspection station.
Thank you, Barclay. Okay, we have 2 more questions, and I think we'll wrap it up. We have one that came in from the chat from Larry Freeman of Niagara. Tyler, can you share that one with us?
Thanks, Kathy. Larry's question is, do you have a plan in place to take the time necessary away from your present duties on the farm, with your family, at home, to take on the roles and responsibilities of this position?
And first up this time is Barclay.
Thanks for the question, Larry. Well, I've always been thinking about this, and I based some projects that I really am looking forward to wrapping up, including my work on preserving the junior farmer history. A lot of that's sent to go to the University of Guelph and other archives, hopefully this winter. I'm also looking at hiring someone to help with my business next year. So I have been thinking about that, and I am looking forward to the challenge as well. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Barclay. Next, Sarah, please.
Thank you, Larry, for the question. This is where these tough conversations come into play. And our family believes that having the tough conversations make it easy. When you put the tough conversations on the table about putting your name forward for director at large, or any board for that matter, or doing any new project, it's out in the open. Everyone understands. So as a family, we've had those tough conversations, but we also had those tough conversations with the village. It takes a village to raise a child, and having a young child, I had to have those conversations with our friends, with our family that support us and love us, to ensure that they're okay with it, and that they were comfortable with it and ready for me to step up. So at this time, I've had those tough conversations, and I am ready to put my foot forward, and I am ready to work for our province as a whole.
Thank you, Sarah. And Erica, please.
Thank you for the question, Larry. Short answer, yes, I wouldn't have run if I hadn't thought it out fully and made sure I could dedicate all the time that was necessary for a director at large position, because I do know that it requires a lot of driving around and being in different counties and hearing people, like really going out there and hearing them. So yes. But also, as Sarah said, it does take a village, and my family farm is a group effort, and we work together, and my mom, it's really her show there, so she does a lot of that, and it's super helpful. But again, as Sarah said, I have a young son, but again, it takes a village, and yeah, I've thought it all out, and I'm ready to do this now.
Awesome. Okay, and our last question will come from Bill Parks from Kent County. Bill, go ahead.
How would you communicate agriculture and food sustainability to society?
First up this time, we have Erica.
Great question, Bill. So I already do a bit of that through my artwork, where I show the life and struggles of all the different parts of farming via my comic series online. I think that social media is the future of connection with people, politicians, and consumers alike, everyone. That is where we are going to be able to connect best with them and make the changes that we need to make. I think that, no, I'm not crazy about the term influencer, but the influencers will influence these changes to happen. So I think that in order to have these conversations, like you have all these events and that's great, but on a bigger stage, I think social media is a huge asset, and properly marketing ourselves in a more casual manner via social media will be the key in getting that messaging out. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Barclay's up next.
Thanks for the question, Bill. And that is the hard one. But what I have been doing as a market gardener is I have been giving people the time to talk to me. The farmers markets that I've been at, I've been one of the few farmers that stays at that booth. Usually it's a lot of workers dropped off and then the farmer picks them up at the end of the day. Now that I have people coming to the farm to pick up their box of produce, I give them what we call market gardening farmer time. So they get to see me as they come, and as they're waiting in line to pick up their share of the harvest. And I talk to them about the weather and how it affects and what I've been doing. I also carry around this little device called my phone, and I take pictures constantly. My parents don't quite understand what it is I'm always taking pictures of. I see the same thing every day, but a lot of people don't see what we see. And I was just at my chiropractor's last week, and my chiropractor who follows me on Instagram says, I need more cows. I need to show more cows on Instagram. And I'm glad that I'm able to have people look at that, because I don't know where other people are looking. And if we don't influence them in some way, someone else is going to be there doing that. And we have a lot of people who are anti-agriculture who are trying to get everyone's attention. So there may be a flood of people like Millennium Farmer, Andrew Campbell, or NY Farm Girls, but we all have to be out there to compete with everyone's interests, and even if we're overlapping one another.
Thank you, Barclay. And Sarah, wrapping up our last question.
So thank you, Bill, for the question. And like many of you, this question is a challenge to all of us. It challenges us in how we think we're going to communicate what is good about our industry, but we also need to be transparent to some of the challenges that our industry faces so that we're open and people feel they can ask questions to us. I think it's a multi-pronged approach. Yes, we need social media. Social media is a way of the future, but it's not everything. There is a lot of weight that goes into having a one-on-one conversation. And those one-on-one conversations can happen at a farm show or in the airport. So many times I've sat on a plane traveling to somewhere, or sat on the beach, struck up a conversation with someone. They don't even have to be from Ontario or Canada. They could be from anywhere in the world. And we get talking about farming, and they ask the questions. What is it like? What do you do day to day? And they want to know. So it's having that ability to be comfortable in the situation. Take every situation to talk about our story. Know our 30-second story. Focus in on our 30-second story, and make sure that we show them, but we also give them the opportunity to have our contact information so that when they do have a question later on, they know who they can reach out to instead of Google.
Thank you, Sarah. On behalf of the OFA, I certainly would like to extend my appreciation to all three of you for putting your names forward as our next director at large, sitting at the provincial board table. So in order to be the successful candidate to the board position, the candidate does need to have 50% plus one of the votes cast here today. And so if that happens on the first ballot, that a single candidate achieves more than 50% plus one, we will declare a winner after one vote. If after the first vote, none of the three candidates have 50% plus one, the person with the lowest number of votes will drop off, and we will proceed to a second vote, at which point we will surely have one candidate with 50% plus one. So at this time, I would like to invite the voting delegates today to cast their votes for one of the three candidates at large. Welcome back, everyone. So we do have a winner to declare after our first ballot. So out of 222 total votes cast, the candidate Sarah Wood obtained 51.4% of the vote. So she is declared officially the Director at Large. Congratulations, Sarah, and thank you to Erica and Barclay. Okay, and with that, I believe we are going to take a 10-minute health break.
My name is Denise Hockaday, and I'm the CEO of Chicken Farmers of Ontario. So during the pandemic, the habits and the practices of how Ontarians ate really changed. And this meant that the differing demands on chicken were really felt across the industry. Ontario chicken farmers really responded to this. In spring of 2020, we launched Chicken as Usual, a consumer relations marketing campaign designed to reassure Ontario families and consumers that while it may not be business as usual, it is chicken as usual. Ontario's chicken farmers have been on the job and committed to raising safe, healthy, high-quality, locally grown chicken for families and for food banks. Ontario chicken farmers donated 1.6 million meals of chicken to local food banks in 2020, and we're on track to donate as much or more in 2021. At CFO, we're really pleased to partner with OFA, and we hope that you have a wonderful annual general meeting.
So thank you very much, Denise, for those words, and to our sponsor, Chicken Farmers of Ontario today. Welcome back. I hope your lunch was as nutritious as that picture was. And we now head into a really great conversation with the Honourable Lisa Thompson, our Minister. Minister Thompson, thank you for taking some time to join us today. We know how valuable your time is and appreciate the opportunity to hear from you, especially following our earlier work together today. Lisa, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Peggy. I've really enjoyed working with you as president. That's all I was going to say at this point. Sorry about that.
Not a problem at all. I'm going to do a quick introduction and it's all yours.
Okay.
Lisa Thompson was first elected to Queen's Park in October 2011, re-elected in June 2014, and was elected for a third term in June 2018. In June 2021, Lisa was appointed to Ontario's 40th Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs by Premier Doug Ford. Prior to being Agricultural Minister, Lisa served as Minister of Government and Consumer Services, Ontario's Registrar General, and Minister of Education. Lisa was born and raised near Wingham in Huron County, but she now calls Bruce County home as she lives near Teeswater on a farm that has been in her husband's family for 120 years. And once again, welcome, Minister Thompson.
Well, thank you very much, President Peggy, and good afternoon. I want to thank you so much for that welcome, and I have to share with everyone that's joined us this afternoon that I really appreciate the opportunity and the warmness that your president has extended to me since taking over the reins from Ernie Hardeman. I really value Ernie's friendship and all the work that he has done, and I'm really pleased to see it carry on in that same manner with myself in this seat now. And Peggy, I want to thank you. I want to thank you and your members for your tireless work to support your members and for your leadership on a whole host of issues critical to Ontario's farmers. You know, I'm honored to take part in this particular session as Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. I've attended your convention many times, and it's somewhat surreal to be with you today as Minister, but my heart still remains steadfast, and I will continue to do all I can to ensure we have a good working relationship and that we're always putting our priorities in terms of Ontario farmers forward together. But for today, I wanted to reflect on what we have done together, what we have accomplished over this past year, because you all know it's been another challenging one for our sector and the determined people who work so hard and so passionately 365 days of the year to provide good quality, healthy food. Weather conditions, labor challenges, farm trespassers, cost of production, ongoing pressures associated with COVID-19 have been among the issues our farmers have contended with. And I'm pleased that our government was able to provide unique and timely supports this year. For instance, delivering urgently needed hay, feed, and water in terms of our project that we put forward to fund the summer's farmers in Northwestern Ontario struggling with the season's drought conditions. We also increased the provincial compensation rate available through the Ag Stability Program. We returned the Enhanced Agri-Food Workplace Protection Program for another year, and most recently, updating some of the eligibility requirements to make it work better for the sector. We also have been working on improving the issue with disposal of dead stock via a new Canadian Agricultural Partnership intake. And we're also, this is very important, and we're also working side by side with you, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, to extend and expand your Feeding Your Future program to help address the sector's labor concerns today and in the years to come. As you are all aware, our government has also been supportive, and very much so as a priority, the mental health of our farmers and our rural residents. And it's a priority because mental health is just as important as physical health. We've funded mental health surveys and research projects, which will improve the knowledge and understanding of the needs of farming communities, and therefore ultimately improving the supports required as well. This fall, we also provided funding to the Canadian Mental Health Association Ontario Division to expand the In the Know programming to more communities. I know how stressful and challenging owning and operating a farm can be. And the past 2 years, over and above that, have been particularly difficult for farmers and their families with regards to their mental health, with the added pressures caused by increased workloads and interruptions in the supply chains brought about by the pandemic. We are committed to doing everything we can to help our sector address these challenges and to support mental health in our farming communities from one end of this province to the other. So I'm pleased to share with you our next actions to further demonstrate that commitment. And as Peggy alluded to earlier, just this morning, our government, working with our federal partners, announced we will invest more than $7 million to fund 2 new mental health initiatives, the Ontario Farmer Wellness Program and the Guardian Network Initiative. The Ontario Farmer Wellness Programming will provide farmers and their families with province-wide, no-cost counseling support that will be offered by licensed professionals. As Peggy mentioned this morning during the announcement, farmers, OFA members, you want to talk about it. And she reminded me that in 2017, this workshop at your convention was very well attended. And we take that into consideration along with what already is happening out there. And this is where I would like to recognize the programming that we will be moving forward to, because it is modeled after a successful initiative piloted by Deborah Van Berkel in Lennox-Addington and Hastings. And I'm very pleased that all of her work will lead us to extend her supports and that type of programming right across Ontario. We also see great potential in the Guardian Network programming that will launch early next year. In the interim, we'll be creating a network of volunteers trained in mental health literacy to identify farmers at risk and connect them with appropriate resources. And again, this program will help farmers as well as their families. I sincerely want to thank the Federation of Agriculture in Ontario for its work to help develop this programming and its pledge to support, as it is I find, and I'm sure everyone on this call will agree, OFA is a very trusted advisor and we look forward to doing more with you. And specifically with regards to mental health, I look forward to the positive impacts this programming will make to the health and well-being of our farmers, our farm families, as well as our rural communities. And I hope we can continue to work together to help those who are struggling to strengthen the incredible resilience of our sector. Never before has a strong agricultural sector in Ontario been needed. We are one of the crucial sectors. And I'm very glad that we are demonstrating, we being our government, we are demonstrating how we continue to stand with farmers throughout Ontario. So I want to thank you again for allowing me a few moments to speak with you today, and trust, I always appreciate everything you do. I recognize the strong working relationship that the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs has with OFA, and I look forward to continuing to foster strong relationships that drive absolute success. And I feel, quite simply, we share the very same deep sense of responsibility to those we serve. A big part of my mandate as minister has been and will continue to be driving innovation in our sector and position it for long-term economic growth, and prosperity. But in order to do so, we need to take care of the people that work 365 days a year. You know, when we think of our farmers working every day of the year, I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention all of the amazing organizations that work so closely with our farmers and our commodity organizations. There have been so many amazing organizations working with my ministry on the mission, not only to make sure that we take care of our frontline farmers, but we move forward and we look to innovation and we look to growing our sector and having sustainable long-term growth and prosperity. And I'm really looking forward to working with OFA in the coming months as well on that very thing. I hope next time we meet, it can be in person at your annual general meeting, and we can do so in person. That camaraderie, the networking, the OFA convention is known to provide is so important. And that too, that opportunity to socialize and network is part of our overall wellness that we require and we offer to each other in Ontario's agri-food sector. So I thank you once again for all you do. I wish you the very best during your convention. And again, I hope to see you soon in person. Thank you, President Peggy, for inviting me to join you today.
Thank you, Minister Thompson, for speaking to our delegates, guests, and industry stakeholders today. As I said earlier today, a farm's greatest asset is the farmer, and this is about supporting them and their families. We are absolutely thrilled with today's announcement, courtesy of both the federal and provincial governments, and regarding the expansion of mental health programs and support for Ontario farmers. As we shared, OFA has long prioritized mental health and wellness of farmers, and we are pleased to see an investment with that will have a significant impact, I believe, on the livelihoods of farm families across the province. So we thank you for these valuable initiatives and look forward to working together to launch these programs. Thank you again for being here today. And with that, we move into our resolutions, and I pass the chair duties over to Vice President Drew Spoelstra.
Thanks, Peggy. I'm happy to help lead us through the resolution process again this year. So similar to motions earlier in the morning, a mover and seconder has been identified in advance for each resolution so that we can move quickly into discussion on each resolution and voting by delegates and PAC members. So how to participate, the slide is up on the screen. When you're prompted by myself, please dial that toll-free number, 1-866-438-1084. It should be coming up on the bottom of your screen. There it is. And when you call, please be prepared to state the following to the live operator: your full name and county, which resolution you're speaking to, and you'll be placed in the queue. When called upon by myself, you may begin speaking. So if you're the mover to the Leeds resolutions and wish to speak to them, please call in now. That's you, Ryan Passy, and Cornelia Danis. Points of order and clarification, if you have those, you can address those through the chat box, and Tyler will bring those to my attention here in the studio. That way we won't tie up the phone. So we'll move right into things here. Again, if you're moving those first resolutions, please call in and get in the queue. We'll move ahead to the first resolution from Leeds County. So this resolution is on an OFA bylaw amendment to designate an OFA region. That's moved by Ryan Passy and seconded by Cornelia Danis. And the resolution says, therefore be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture Board of Directors amend OFA's bylaws to allow an OFA member the option to designate the OFA region where they farm or carry on business, or the closest region thereto, instead of remaining assigned to the region in which where they reside. And further be it resolved that the OFA Board of Directors enact an amended bylaw to enable an OFA member to designate their OFA region before the annual regional meetings are held in 2022. So we should have some callers hopefully in the queue. There we go. Ryan, are you on the line? Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Oh, perfect. Hey, so this the first resolution, I think for most of the members, it should seem to be pretty administrative in nature. What we've realized is the Constitution or the bylaw framework does not allow someone to hold a position where they could be cast a vote or hold a PAC position at the provincial level if their official address doesn't coincide with the county that they have registered through Agricor. So we all realize that the nature of farming has changed. It's possible that for a period of time in someone's life, they may move away from the farm, but still conduct farm business in that county. And while their address doesn't coincide, they could still want to participate at the provincial level. We've encountered this at Leeds for a couple of individuals that want to sit both at our county board, which we can address through our county constitution, but then also hold an elected position. So we just ask that the membership join together and say to the board that this should be something that gets looked at in the next constitution update, and that we amend this so that anybody can participate regardless of where they're currently living if they're still conducting eligible farming practices. And I'm happy to take any questions on this resolution.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll move on to Cornelia.
And I would just like to add that at the county level, we can, in our own bylaws, allow for people to vote to be members of our board if they're not in the county. But in order to use their strengths further on into the organization, they need an opening through the OFA bylaws in order to help use their skills for the rest of the organization.
Thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to speak, please jump onto that hotline fairly quickly. I don't see any other speakers right at the moment. Anything in the chat, Tyler?
Nothing at this time, Drew.
Just give it a couple seconds. I'm not seeing any other speakers lined up, so we'll call this resolution to question. Please go to your DOTS platform, and if you agree, vote yes, and if you don't, please vote no. Thanks, everyone. That resolution number 1 is carried. We'll move on to resolution number 2. If you wish to speak to this resolution, please jump on the hotline and get in the queue. So resolution number 2 from Leeds again, business risk management. It's moved by Ryan Passy and seconded by Eleanor Renault. It reads, therefore be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture work with the Beef Farmers of Ontario, Agricor, and the Minister to develop a multi-year approval process for agriculture support programs so that year over year coverage expectations are predictable and repeatable and on time. Do we have a speakers list? Thanks. I see Ryan in the queue. Would you like to go ahead, Ryan?
Yeah, excellent. So someone tried to explain to me how this process works, and it was awfully confusing to me that on an annual basis, we were going for reapproval for business risk management programs. So for all good reasons, I think, things got backed up with COVID this year, but what it unveiled was that the program acceptance this year, or the program approval, was about 2 months late in the beef sector, which then consequently led to Q1, Q2 reporting being 2 months late and payouts being 2 months late for eligible coverage. So, we're in a business where our input costs are relatively static in time. They're either seasonal or they're based on preparing for different changes in our operation throughout the year. And a business management program is designed specifically to help offset production cost losses. When it's delayed by 2 months, your payment program, well, you're now carrying the input costs out of pocket, right? So the intent of this is just to say, well, let's try to discipline the process so that we have some assurances and consistency in out years that a program is going to be approved and that the timelines that happen on a consistent basis will be adhered to. So like I said, this year, particularly in beef, and I don't know if it happened to other commodity groups or not, but everything was about 2 months late. My first Q1, Q2 checks just arrived last week when they're normally the first week of September. So, we were carrying about a 2 month delta in time. I'm happy to take any questions on this.
Thanks, Ryan. I see Eleanor in the queue. Would you like to go ahead, Eleanor?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Do you wish to speak to it?
Nope, don't need to. It's self-explanatory.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anyone else in the queue. Anything on your end, Tyler?
Nothing submitted as of right now.
Okay, we'll move this resolution to a vote. Please go to your DOTS platform and vote. Thanks, everyone. That resolution is carried. We'll move on to resolution number 3, and if you're speaking, please jump on the phone line. This is again from Leeds and the cooperators dropping coverage of older dairy barns and operations. So therefore be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture demand that the cooperators insurance company reverse its decision to no longer insure dairy operations whose barns are older. The mover is Eleanor Renaud and seconded by Brenda Dunster. Do we have some callers on the line? I see Eleanor Renaud. Please go ahead, Eleanor.
Yes, Eleanor Renaud, Leeds County. I so move. This came to our attention from one of my neighbors who had been a long-time cooperators customer. And when his person came out to renew his account, they thought everything was fine. The office thought everything was fine. But when it came back from head office, it was not covered. He was left in a lurch because it was at the 9th hour or 11th hour, and he really had to get insurance. So he was a dairy farmer, meticulous in keeping things up. Yes, the barn is a little older, but it is in great shape. Could not figure out why, was never given a reason why. So we do believe that cooperators needs to be called out on this. The question needs to be asked. This did happen numerous years ago where it just dropped farmers, period. Didn't matter who you were, because they did not want to cover farmers anymore. We did look into that and got that reversed. So we wanted this to be looked into because it could be any one of us tomorrow. It might not matter what your commodity is. It could be you next. And no one wants to be left in the lurch with no coverage. And so that's why we brought this forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Eleanor. I see Brenda on the line. Would you like to speak to the resolution?
Just that I second it, and this is all new for me, so I second the motion, maybe just needing more information.
Thank you. Anyone else to this resolution? If you want to jump on the phone. Anything on your end, Tyler?
No phone, no chat.
Alrighty, we'll call this resolution a question then. Please go to your DOTS platform and vote. Thanks, everyone. The resolution number 3 is carried. We're going to move on to resolution number 4, and I'm going to try and slow this down a little bit. I realize there's some internet delay in certain areas. Resolution number 4 is from Lanark. It's on wild parsnip. The mover is Derek Oliver, and the seconder is Ashley Napton. And it reads, therefore be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture lobby the Ontario government and the regional wardens councils to take a more proactive approach with their protocols to control wild parsnip and other noxious weeds on public lands and along provincial and municipal roadsides and ditches, and further be it resolved that the OFA encourage appointed weed inspectors to facilitate the control of wild parsnip along provincial and municipal roadways and on private properties. Pull up our speakers list here, and I see that both Derek and Ashley are online. Derek, if you'd like to go ahead and speak to the resolution.
Yes, thank you. So we have been seeing a lot of, or we've been getting a lot of complaints from our members about the presence of wild parsnip along roadsides and ditches. It has been a big problem in several of our municipalities and along Highway 7, which is maintained by the MTO and runs directly through our county. Mowing has fallen behind in the last year, where in places where spraying is not practiced. MTO crews were going around in the late summer knocking down plants in problem areas. And by that time, weeds was already seeded, so it was making the problem even worse. So with this resolution, we'd like to hope to improve the awareness of noxious weeds across all levels of government and to encourage more proactive management approaches. And furthermore, we would like to see appointed weed inspectors do more for our areas. Now they're only taking action when they're called upon by landowners. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Just a quick reminder, if you want to speak to this resolution, please call in and let the operator know that you want to speak to resolution number 4. We'll go ahead with Ashley if you're on the line.
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that we have been in contact with municipalities in our area, and so it would be appreciative to get back up. But other than that, I'm in favor. No other comments.
Thanks, Ashley. Just give it a few minutes here in case anyone else wants to jump on the call. Yeah, just another reminder, if you're wishing to speak to resolution number 5, you can jump in the queue as well. I'm not seeing anyone else come on the line. Tyler, anything on your end?
No, nothing, but might want to wait just an extra 30 seconds or so just to make sure that no questions come in. Just doing a quick check right now. Okay, so there are 2 friendly amendments being requested. Jay Cunningham in Kent has submitted to number 1, add AMO and Roma to Ontario Government and Regional Wardens Council as sources to request. Number 2, add all noxious weeds to wild parsnip in second portion of the resolution. And I'm also noticing another similar theme about adding, why not all noxious weeds as opposed to just wild parsnip. So these are kind of friendly amendments that are being submitted.
So I think adding Roma and AMO to the list of folks to work with is friendly. Given that the resolution is specific to wild parsnip, I'm not sure adding all noxious weeds would be, but we could take it as an amendment, maybe not a friendly. Yeah. I also see that Robert McEachran's on the line. Do you wish to speak to the resolution, Robert?
Yeah, I support this resolution. In our municipality, weed inspection only occurs by complaint. And when the process happens, these pretty little yellow flowers are now starting to ripen, and we have seeds. They came along with a glyphosate product. Yes, the plant turns brown and withers, but the seeds have already been released, and they're spread by animals, birds, and waterway, because roads all have ditches along them. And I know a property where that ditch flows into the farm, and now wild parsnip is going pretty near to the family house. I think this should be supported by OFA. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. I see Derek's also still on the line. Derek, did you have any comments on the proposed amendments to add AMO, Roma, and noxious weeds, all noxious weeds, to the list?
Yeah, I would be willing to accept those friendly amendments and the amendment to include all noxious weeds.
Thank you. Are we able to change that on the slide before we go to a vote?
Drew, just want to make a point of clarification. We've had a few people asking. So you can submit the question that you might have via chat, or you can call in. The call in option is in case the question becomes detailed, convoluted in whatever way, shape, or form. Sometimes it's easier to speak to the resolution as opposed to putting something through the chat. But just to confirm, both options are available for our members.
Thanks, Tyler. I see Eleanor's on the line. Do you like to speak to the resolution?
Yes, I wanted to just say it is in the first, therefore be it resolved, noxious weeds. So they do say wild parsnip and other noxious weeds. So that is definitely a friendly amendment.
Okay, fair enough. I was just basing it more on the title, but that's fine. And Ashley has agreed, as well as the seconder, that's fine.
Great.
Thanks.
Drew, there's one more amendment that's being requested, and it's about removing private property from this resolution.
I'm not sure that's friendly. I would suggest that would need to be an official amendment if they want to remove that. So we have an amended slide here with the friendly amendments added to it. We'll give it a sec for any other questions that might come in. Not seeing anything pop up. So we'll call this resolution to question.
Drew?
Yep.
Sorry, Drew. Just before you call it to a vote, can you just make clarification regarding the private property portion of this resolution? As you mentioned, that was not a particularly friendly amendment. So can you just address that before we vote?
So I suggest it wasn't a friendly amendment. If someone wanted to make an amendment, they could do that. It would also need to be seconded. I didn't hear a seconder come out anywhere.
And the reason I ask is because it was brought forward by John Opstein, one of our members, in the chat portion. Donald Lunn has made an amendment to remove and on private properties.
Okay, there's an amendment to remove on private properties. Is there a seconder? Oh, we have a caller's list. All right, I'll go to Greg Fenty, if you can hear me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can. Is Donna the mover on this amendment? Is Donna the mover on this amendment?
That's correct.
True? No?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Drew, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Donna's the mover.
Wonderful. So if Donna is the mover, I'm willing to be seconder. Our concerns are allowing weed inspectors access to private property. Seems like a slippery slope, and we're uneasy about that. We do support the noxious weeds along roads control, but we're concerned about giving weed inspectors access to private property, and that is what we'd like to see removed: access to private property.
Thanks, Greg. We need to do some confirmation on this, but we think that private property is already included in the Noxious Weeds Act. But again, we do need to follow up on that before being able to confirm.
Okay, thank you.
I also have Bill Parks in the queue. Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Greg. We need to do some confirmation on this, but we think that private property is already included in the Noxious Weeds Act. But again, we do need to follow up on that before being able to confirm.
I support Drew's position.
Bill Parks in the queue.
Hi, Drew. I support your position that private property should stay in.
I think you might need to mute your screen, Bill.
I support Drew's position. Drew, I support your position.
Thanks, Bill. So we have a mover and a seconder on an amendment to remove private properties. We need to call that to a vote if there's no other speakers or anyone in the chat.
There's just a point of clarification on the terminology in terms of private property. Marlies Cayley, if I pronounced that incorrectly, I apologize. Does this mean that they can come onto private property and remove noxious weeds such as wild parsnip without the consent of the owner?
I believe so, yes. Have to do a little more research on the act itself, but I think that is the case around the Noxious Weeds Act.
Thanks, Drew.
So if there's no one else, we'll call the amendment to question, and that is to remove the last few words that says "and private property." So if the DOTS platform is set up, you can vote on the amendment. If you agree with removing private property, please vote yes. If you don't agree with the amendment, please vote no. Thanks, everyone. We have the results for the amendment, and the amendment is lost. So we'll now go back to the original resolution, number 4, with the friendly amendments to add Roma and AMO and all noxious weeds. And we can call that resolution to question as long as there's no other input. And we'll go to our DOTS platform if we're set up. Please go to a vote. Thanks, everyone. We should have the results ready momentarily. And the resolution is carried. Thank you. Move on to resolution number 5, and if you're speaking to this resolution from Oxford County, please jump on the line. It is on a carbon credit program, and it's moved by Dirk Bogard, seconded by Nicole Barnett. Therefore, be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture lobby the related ministries to implement a carbon credit payment program. Do we have any folks on the line?
Yes, it's Caitlin Van Whaley from Oxford County calling in.
Thanks, Caitlin. Go ahead.
We, as farmers, are strong stewards of the land, and asking for a carbon credit we believe is valid. As farmers, we sequester carbon with the crops that we grow and pay the carbon tax. We believe there should be some form of carbon credit.
Thank you. Also see Nicole on the line. You wish to speak to the resolution?
Yes, please.
This is Nicole Barnett, the Administrator for Oxford County Federation of Agriculture. I second the motion put forth by OCFA regarding a carbon credit payment program, and I have no further comments on the subject.
Thanks, Nicole. Greg Fenty, go ahead.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of being environmentally responsible. As a cash farmer, as a cash crop farmer, I think that'd be exciting to get a check in the mail for sequestering carbon, but I have some concerns. If we do agree to ask for a carbon credit, by definition, we're endorsing a carbon tax, and I have some concerns about that, and there's ramifications that we need to be aware of. And secondly, as a cash crop farmer, you might be entitled to a check, but as a livestock farmer, it may be argued that we are carbon emitters. So as a livestock producer, I would be very concerned about the effect this will have on us. The resolution reached to contact the affected ministries, and I'd be very leery if we're talking carbon tax. We may not have the voice of those ministries at the federal level, and I'd be leery to ask to jump into the skip rope at this particular moment. So my concern is if we ask for carbon credits, we are endorsing the carbon tax. If we do this, we may find it detrimental to livestock agriculture. We will not be the only voice on there setting the price for carbon. It won't be able to be calculated, and it may not work to our benefit to do this. That's my comment.
Thanks, Greg. Can you confirm if you're in favor or opposed to the resolution?
Gently opposed.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, go ahead.
I would be on a similar sentiment. I'm gently opposed to this resolution as well. I think the concern I have is that we're using carbon tax or carbon credit in this scenario as a very narrow component of what is probably going to be a much larger conversation on agriculture's role in climate change policy. So while I understand the intent of the resolution, I think that it might behoove us to just take a pause on how we want to approach climate change policy writ large and posture ourselves to get ahead of this one before we see federal and provincial level legislation shaking out from various international forums that we're making commitments to as a country, right? So I think it's the right idea. We need to be thinking proactively on how we can lobby for the great best interest of agriculture and how it contributes to climate change. But I think we need to just open the aperture a bit, and perhaps this is something that gets tabled as a much larger conversation at a future convention.
Thanks, Ryan. Tyler, anything at your end on the chat?
More of a comment than a question, I guess. Comes from John Thompson. Credits won't happen until we can document increases in soil carbon, which is not typically happening, especially with cash crops. That's the only thing I have in the chat at this point.
Okay, thanks. Not seeing any other callers, but I'll give it a quick second. See if anyone else pops in.
Sharon Witzel of Perth County also has a comment that agriculture cannot be absent from the table, or someone else will make decisions without us. Perhaps this needs to be tabled until it can be further developed.
Is that a motion to table?
Not that I'm seeing right now. It's more of just a comment.
Okay. All right, well, I'm not seeing anything else pop up. We'll call this resolution to question. Please go to your DOTS platform and vote. Thanks, everyone. We're back, and that resolution is lost. So we'll move to resolution number 6. This is our final resolution today, and it's from York on OFA time-sensitive response policy and procedure. It's moved by Jordan Coates and seconded by Kim Eppingham. And it says, therefore be it resolved that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture develop a policy and procedure in order to facilitate a response to time-sensitive issues of a scope or impact beyond a local county issue that does not meet the time frame of regularly scheduled board meetings to allow for an OFA board position to be developed within a necessary time frame. We'll move over to the phone, and I see Kim online and Jordan, but Kim's up first, so go ahead, Kim.
Okay, I was going to be the seconder, but I can move this. I think it's fairly explanatory. I guess the only thing I would highlight is we are not asking that the board allow comments on all issues that come up, but at least that there is a procedure to be able to discuss it and make a decision between board meetings if there's a time-sensitive issue that comes up.
Thank you. Jordan, do you have comments you wish to share?
Just a bit of background regarding this resolution. We're dealing with a lot of challenges with development encroachment and the desire to open up the greenbelt in our area. And this resolution came out of needing to comment on a regional meeting and position where they wanted to open up the greenbelt for more development. But the details of what we needed to comment on didn't come out until the week of the meeting. So it made it a time-sensitive issue, and it was hard to get the right response from the OFA. And our small county organization being made up of volunteers, we don't necessarily have the time or ability to provide the right response in that situation either. And we see it affecting potentially the rest of the province, where opening up something in legislation such as the Greenbelt will just create potential for that to happen wherever else it lies in the province.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other callers in the queue. If you're wanting to speak to this resolution, please jump on the line. Anything over there, Tyler?
Not at this time, Drew.
We'll give it a few minutes here.
Sorry, one question here, Drew, from Daryl Terpstra in Perth County. Just asking if one of the executive that's here today, obviously yourself, can ask if this policy already exists for the OFA board.
Well, I'd say I'm not sure there's a specific policy, but we certainly do our best to get information in and out of the office and to the board in as timely a manner as possible. We're certainly open to meeting in whatever manner we have to. We're doing a lot of things online now over email, in between monthly scheduled board meetings as well. So we're certainly doing our best to get information out to members as fast as we possibly can on issues that maybe aren't already current policy, but maybe require some tweaking.
Thanks, Drew.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other callers. We'll call the question on this resolution. Please go to a vote. And we're back. Thanks, everyone, and this resolution is carried. So this brings our resolution session to a close. Thank you all for your participation and your cooperation to get through this. We, of course, couldn't hold these annual meetings without excellent sponsors, and a big thank you to all of them. And we'll now switch over to a video from our friends of the Egg Farmers of Ontario.
I hope you were all dancing along too. We're going to go back in our agenda and talk a little bit about some OFA initiatives focused on connecting with Ontarians, our theme for today. Preserving farmland for the purpose of food production and processing has always been a key priority for OFA. Without access to arable land, we are jeopardizing the local agri-food system. With that notion in mind, earlier this year, OFA initiated a public awareness campaign titled Homegrown, which is focused on protecting Ontario's farmland and domestic food production. We aimed to tell the homegrown story through a compelling narrative based on emotion and perception while instilling discipline and consistency in our messaging and outreach. To date, more than 17,000 people have signed on in support of our campaign through the change.org petition. We understand cities and municipalities need to grow, but our message is for land use planners and developers to start looking inward and upward before they look out. Homegrown, it tends to be a multi-year campaign, reaching the public audience from all angles, including web, social media, print, and digital. Last week, we launched a complimentary resource to the campaign, a video titled, "This is Agriculture." The purpose is to illustrate the importance of agriculture on urban life in the province. It puts a spotlight on products used and enjoyed by urban residents every day, while also giving a bit of a peek behind the curtain on the logistics and science that gets food, fuel, and fiber from the farm to our homes. Today, we are also excited to announce the launch of a new public trust consumer outreach program in partnership with Farm and Food Care Ontario. Titled Source Local, the year-long pilot project aims to connect Ontarians to farmers, families, and those directly involved in Ontario's food value chain. Everyone has a reason for the businesses they support, the products they purchase, and the food they eat. We hope to connect with consumers over the values that go into the reasons for making these decisions. Whether you identify as a consumer or producer, we all have a reason to be #OntAg proud. We look forward to delivering this pilot project, engaging Ontarians and communities across the province, and connecting over shared values. Following the videos we are about to display, which relate to each of these campaigns, we are going to open the phone lines and the chat box to answer questions from you, our members, on OFA's work in the Public Trust Forum, what the future holds, and any burning questions you may have for our executive committee. Here we go. This is agriculture.
This is agriculture. This is agriculture.
This is agriculture.
This is agriculture. This is agriculture. This is agriculture.
Even this is agriculture.
This is local.
We love buying local because it supports our community.
My reason for supporting local is to help support your fellow Canadians, your neighbors, and the amazing migrant workers that come here from abroad.
My reason for buying local is to take pride in our environment.
I eat local because it means we're supporting our amazing Ontario farmers, and I trust the quality and the work that goes into producing food 365 days a year.
This is local.
My reason for buying local is when you buy sweet corn locally, you support my farm.
My reason for supporting local is you're supporting families, farm families like mine, and communities like mine.
Je source mes produits locaux pour aider mon communauté.
It helps our community, it helps our friends, it helps our neighbors.
My reason to buy local is to support local farmers and eat fresh.
My reason for buying local is because food purchased locally is healthy food and close to the source, so it's really good for you.
I like to buy local because local farmers provide the best animal care possible.
It's great that everyone learns where their food comes from, and buying local supports that and enhances that.
So those are two pretty amazing videos, and they really show the broad scope and the awesomeness of Ontario agriculture. We are pretty OntAg proud to be working with Farm and Food Care and as well as Enterprise on these initiatives. We look forward to continuing to bring these messages to Ontarians and showcase the best of our industry, which it has to offer from field to fork. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Tyler to help chair this session, this fireside chat here today.
Thank you, Peggy. I very much appreciate that. We'll just get this conversation started before members have the opportunity to submit their questions via either the chat or phone lines. But I think one of the things that some of our members might want to know is, why did the OFA board make it a priority to enter this space, this public trust forum, for lack of a better term, through these initiatives, both homegrown and source local? I'm going to kick this question off by first asking Mark Reeser, our vice president.
Farmland itself is the raw material for growing food. And if we don't have farmland, we can't grow food. And I am concerned that, and I think we are concerned that, we should all be concerned that when we talk about sustainable growth, we can't be losing 175 acres of farmland per day. It just doesn't make sense. It's not the same thing. And I think we need to intensify our efforts to let the public know that preserving farmland is important for both us and for them.
Thanks, Mark. Drew Spolstra, Vice President, has also been very engaged in these conversations about farmland preservation, doing multiple media requests, attending municipal council meetings, and within our protecting farmland and domestic food production messaging. Drew would also like to add a few words here.
Thanks, Tyler. And when I think about why this is a priority, I go back to the earlier presentation from Terry O'Reilly, and it's about telling our story. And it's about getting the message out there, like Mark says, on why farmland is important. The problem is, though, that we're only 1.5% of the population in agriculture and farmers across this country, and we need allies. We need people to join in that messaging. We need people to step it up and say, you're right, farmland is important. We need to preserve this land. And I've certainly been seeing it in my local area in Hamilton and the discussions around the council table there. I've never heard people talk about agriculture and farmland in the way they have in this last year or so in my region. So I think it's great, and I hope it continues, and I hope people continue to support Ontario agriculture right here at home.
Thanks, Drew. I know we've had a lot of discussions around the board table on these initiatives, you know, where they started to where they are today. It's been taking a lot of time to develop the concepts, the themes, and the messaging around this. And I know we're all very proud of the work that we've been doing with Enterprise and the work that we will be doing with Farm and Food Care. I'll send this question over to Peggy. how do you foresee OFA as being an influencer in this space?
Thanks for the question. I think I'm actually really excited about how the conversations we've had, especially with the homegrown campaign, how they have reached out and moved the needle. And it isn't just farmers who have said to us, you have made a difference. I actually spoke to a member about a week ago, and I was pretty excited to hear that their spouse is involved in their municipality, and the land use planner actually had decided just recently that agricultural land needed to be protected as they looked forward. And this was new and changed, and part of it had to do with that they had heard the message. And being a part of that conversation has been absolutely amazing. The other piece of this campaign that I want to highlight is the fact that our members have been extremely engaged in it. So it seems like it's a dual-pronged initiative, and it's just a beautiful thing. Very proud of the work that OFA has done on this file.
Thank you, Peggy. That was a great way of kind of showing where OFA is headed, what our intentions are within these initiatives. And I'm going to allow Crispin Colvin, our executive member, to also add a few words regarding this subject.
Thanks, Tyler. The question was a bit about influence, and OFA, with our 38,000 members, we have a tremendous amount of influence, and we can move needles, and I think we've seen that when you look at the decision that was made in Hamilton and the presentation that Drew has made over the period of time in terms of the land use issue. And government consults us. That in itself is influence, and that brings me back also to something that Terry O'Reilly talked about, the trust factor. So we've been building trust with government at all levels, and we're building trust with the public. And I think that helps because we are trusted not only in what we do, but in what we produce and what we put on tables. That is all part of the influence that agriculture carries and that we carry as an organization.
Thank you, Crispin. I hope some of the comments from our executive committee have helped paint a picture as to why OFA has launched these initiatives, where our work is headed over the next 12 to 18 months, how these concepts came to fruition, and some of the messaging that we plan to publish and distribute in an attempt to connect with Ontarians, both in more of a personal, authentic, and genuine way, and just as a way to connect over shared values. So thank you to the entire executive team for partaking in this portion of the annual general meeting. I don't see any further questions at this time, so we will wrap up this portion of the meeting, and I will send it back to Peggy to work on the announcements.
Thanks, Tyler. We have had a number of, or are about to have a number of changes, and both in our organization over the past year and coming up. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Kathy to talk first about some staffing changes we've seen.
Thank you, Peggy. As we get closer to wrapping up today's meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the entire OFA staff team. I can't name them all here today, but there is one in particular I want to highlight, which is the enormously capable conductor of this virtual AGM orchestra and many, many of the in-person AGMs before that, and that is Kelly Alves. Kelly, you have made sure that every single detail of this day would run perfectly, and it has. This is not magic, and it is not luck. It is incredible attention to detail and caring deeply about the member, board, staff, and special guest experience. Thank you. And to the rest of the OFA team, your dedication and hard work is also evidenced in every piece of today's meeting as well. Your passion for the agriculture industry, our members, and each other runs deep. I see it especially reflected in the video this morning, sharing the highlights of the past year with OFA. To all of you, thank you. Also at this time, I'd like to recognize two special members of the OFA team who have moved on to new endeavors of retirement and pursuit of a lifelong dream. First, we have Laura Jeffrey. Laura retired from OFA after 11 years in our Member Relations Department. She was a champion for the members, delivering excellent customer service and exceptional organizational skills. She was a tremendous coach and leader to the Member Relations team, sharing those skills and transferring the drive for excellence to all of those around her. We thank Laura for her commitment to OFA and members across the province, and we hope retirement is treating her well. Next, Heather Dirks. We have just said farewell to Heather this week. In nearly 4 years working at OFA, Heather proved to be a passionate, hardworking, and knowledgeable ally for members in Oxford and Elgin counties. Heather served as a member service representative, advocating on issues and priorities impacting local farmers, including high-speed rail, farmland property tax, and broadband internet. Over the past year, she had transitioned to the Farm Policy Research Team, focusing on incredibly busy and challenging files, such as land use planning and farm property. We sincerely thank Heather for all of her contributions to OFA and Ontario's agriculture industry. We wish her the best of luck in future endeavors and following her dreams. And with that, I pass things back over to Peggy.
Thank you, Kathy. At this time, we would like to acknowledge and wholeheartedly thank our exiting directors that have contributed greatly to the organization. Each have left a lasting impression, impact, and have worked tirelessly for the betterment of Ontario's agriculture sector. Thank you to Hugh Simpson, who served as Director at Large for 3 years. Hugh's passion for connecting with consumers, utilizing social media to promote agriculture and food literacy was evident daily as he served Ontario farmers. Hugh embodies what it means to be an advocate throughout his personal and professional life. His eagerness to bridge the gap between rural and urban was evident through his passionate lobbying to all levels of government. Hugh, you have been an engaged board member, and I will miss seeing your IMHO in my email box. Thank you to Brent Royce, who served as provincial director for 9 years. Brent's dedication to bettering Ontario's agriculture for future generations was showcased through his continued advocacy for farmland preservation, responsible land use planning, and stray voltage. Brent was also instrumental in recruiting new members at the county level and introducing training opportunities to ensure their better success and future success. Brent, behind the scenes and sometimes in front, you pushed us to be better and do better. You have made a difference to this board. And thank you to Réjean Pomaville, who started his involvement with OFA at the local level in 1976, previously holding the position of regional director for 15 years with the original OFA board prior to its restructuring in 2007. He has been an active member in the organization, serving in various roles and always willing to help and support when called on. His dedication and significant contributions to the agricultural industry have earned him several awards over the years for outstanding volunteer service. These awards are a reflection of his character and personality. Réjean, pour tout vous avez fait avec nous. Merci, mon ami. Thank you to Hugh, Brent, and Réjean for their service to Ontario's farmers. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors, and I'd love it if you'd give them a round of applause. And this year, we also say goodbye to our previous OFA president, Keith Curry. At the helm of our organization, Keith lobbied, advocated, and worked hard to position our organization as the agricultural voice for government representatives. He also strengthened existing partnerships with industry partners and stakeholders, as well as worked tirelessly to develop new relationships to secure Ontario's agriculture's continued success. His hard work, dedication, collaborative nature, and unshakable voice for farmers' needs helped to secure Bill 156's proclamation. Keith's passion for ensuring our sector's longevity was evident through his passionate advocacy for farmland preservation, food literacy, local food, land use planning, succession planning, and farmer mental health. He was a pillar of strength at the start of a worldwide pandemic, and with his guidance, positioned OFA at the forefront, delivering current information to farmers across the province, pushing for the development of e-commerce platforms, and lobbying for increased crop insurance protection. Keith worked relentlessly in the pursuit of our mission, Farms and Food Forever, and we thank him for his dedication to our organization, sector, and our 38,000 farm families. We wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Keith. I'd like to call on Keith if he'd like to join us.
Thanks very much, Peggy, for those words. Very kind and very thoughtful, and I certainly do appreciate them. And I was thinking about today, actually last night as I was going to bed, and how I like to think of it as bittersweet, closing my time here at OFA, but in a positive way. I reflected back on my very first AGM, which was some 35 AGMs ago, when I was just a young, pimply-faced kid coming to a convention. And I want to thank Dorothy Lang, who's probably on the call today from the Simcoe County Federation, for actually nominating me in that delegate position. But as I sat at the end of the AGM, I was talking with, at that time, a board member from the county by the name of Carl Sorensen, who many could think of him as being kind of a crusty guy, but he tapped me on the back of my hand and he pointed to the front of the stage, where the stage was, and he said, "Someday you're going to be up there." And of course, at that time, I thought, yeah, sure I am. But I think the best way to describe my time at OFA is about the journey. And you know, I've had the opportunity to be involved with a lot of different organizations and camaraderie along the way with the value chain, but really the journey is about the people and all the people that are involved, whether you are advocating on behalf of you, the membership, or advocating for the value chain that is important to our membership, or advocating to the policymakers who you are trying to improve and enhance the business of agriculture. It's really has been a positive people journey along the way. And I can't encourage enough people to get involved with OFA in any way, shape, or form, whether that's at the county level or on the board. And by the way, congratulations to Sarah Wood for becoming the newest board member today. As I leave, I'm very proud of this organization and the direction it's going, and I'm proud of the way the board has come together and is moving into the 21st century. And I'm really thrilled about where it's at, and I'm looking forward as the first vice president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture to continue working alongside with OFA hand in hand. As the country's largest general farm organization, I can tell you do have an impact on the national scene, so continue that good work. I would be remiss if I did not say a big thank you not only to the current board members, but to all the past board members that I had the privilege of serving with. And I cannot say enough about the entire team, including the staff team from OFA, who've made this experience for me terrific. We really do have the best staff. We couldn't get anywhere close to where we are in our accomplishments without the entire staff team there. And as well to you, the membership that are out there, many of you who I've had the opportunity to travel across the country and across the province to shake your hands and listen to your issues and deal with your problems and deal with initiatives that you want to push forward. Thanks for the time. Thanks for being welcoming to me. And again, to Peggy and the executive, I again want to say thank you for this opportunity to say goodbye, but it's not for long. I'm still going to be around, but good luck in the future. I know you'll do well. I know you'll do us all proud as we always have. And once again, thanks very much for the time.
Keith, as I said at our last board meeting, you are a natural coach. And many of us are around the table because you have encouraged us and led us, and we thank you for your leadership. With that, we also want to welcome to our board new members. We are excited to welcome 3 new zone directors today. They will be, of course, Paul Maurice, representing the counties of Simcoe, Peel, and York; Ethan Wallace, representing the counties of Huron and Perth, and Vanessa Renault, representing the counties of Glengarry, Russell, Prescott, and Stormont. And of course, today's elected Director-at-Large, Sarah Wood. We are looking forward to the new perspectives you will all bring to our table, and thank you for taking on the responsibilities of being the voice of agriculture for your local federations. And I will now pass the mic over to Crispin, our executive member.
Thank you, Peggy. I have the pleasure of bringing the bursary winners forward, at least in name. And the post-secondary bursary program is an integral part of our endeavor to achieve farms and food forever. And we're pleased to annually award 3 bursaries of $2,000 each. This year, the board covered the funds while the AGM remains in a virtual format, as we're unable to fundraise in our traditional method. This year, we received over 50 applications from across the province, reflecting the prestige of our bursary program. And we ask applicants to demonstrate their leadership skills, their agricultural experience, their community involvement, and the academic achievement. It is my pleasure to introduce the winners for 2021. Our first winner is Alison French from Bolton, Ontario. Alison is a director with her local agricultural society, a past 4-H ambassador, and is on the Dean's Honour List. She's in her final year at the University of Guelph for a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. She enjoys being involved with her clubs at school. As an example, she completed her grower pesticide safety course through the OAC Soil and Crop Club. And her goals include to complete her Certified Crop Advisor program and work for a crop input company after graduation. Alison, congratulations. Our next winner is Kristen Kellerman from Carrying Place, Ontario. Kristen is a small business owner and a Class 9 Young Dairy Leaders Institute graduate. She's also a past Canadian Agri-Marketing Association board member. She's in her second year of her Master's in Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health from King's College in the United Kingdom. She is passionate about helping the people and communities who make up the agriculture industry. And her goal is to normalize mental health conversations and provide support and practical resources and programs for farmers. Kristen, congratulations. And our third winner is Sabrina Van Schindel from Woodstock, Ontario. Sabrina already has a master's in epidemiology. She's a dairy herd manager and club president at the Ontario Veterinary College. She's completing her Doctor of Veterinary Medicine at the OVC, and she's in her third year. She has a passion for all things livestock, be it husbandry, nutrition, and veterinary care. Her goal is to complete the food animal stream at OVC and obtain a position in a large animal or bovine practice. Please join me in congratulating our 3 bursary winners. And now I have one other task that I would like to complete, and it's a very nice task, I believe. As many of you will recall, the Northwest had a severe drought this year. And OFA and other local federations stepped up. We've received a very nice letter from the Northwest, and I would like to read it to all our members now. Dear Peggy and OFA AGM attendees, on behalf of the Rainy River Federation of Agriculture Board of Directors and our membership, we are writing to thank the OFA for their assistance in bringing our serious drought to the attention of our provincial and federal leaders. We appreciate the generous donations from the OFA and your collaboration with BFO, OMAFRA, and our governments that brought solutions, dollars, and feed to our devastated district. The disaster relief initiatives brought forward from our Provincial Minister of Agriculture, Lisa Thompson, and the Ontario government has been welcomed and appreciated. Thank you to our brother local federations from Essex, Hastings, Kent, Lambton, and Simcoe for their generous donations of hay or money to the Northwest relief efforts. Watching the truckloads of hay moving through our area, going to the central distribution point, was emotional, to say the least. Knowing our producers would receive the immediate feed needed for their animals brought hope that they would be able to survive the crisis. This was an unprecedented time for our Northwestern Ontario agriculture industry, and any and all assistance and voices that addressed this disaster was appreciated. The agriculture community can always be counted on in difficult times. Thank you for standing strong and with us while we weathered the crisis. Agriculture is a generous community, and we benefited from your strength and generosity. Our humble and grateful thanks. Sincerely, Tracy Haglin, President, Lisa Teeple, Past President. Thank you for those very kind words in your letter. And now I will turn it back over to Peggy.
Thank you, Crispin. It has been a very good day and a lot of really happy news to be shared. I'd like to thank the sponsors who, without sponsors, you can't have meetings like this. And I would like to remind our delegates that later this afternoon, our board will meet after the adjournment of the AGM for a meeting to vote on the president, vice presidents, and executive member. And following that, a press release will be sent out. With that, I also would like to, as Kathy did as well, I would like to send a thank you to both our staff and our board, and to members like you who have joined us today. This is the reason we do the things we do, and it's for people just like you. With that, I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. So the motion reads that the 2021 AGM, Annual General Meeting of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, be adjourned. The mover is Murray Workman, and the seconder is Chris Mullet-Coop. And so called, I will call the vote. To the 7% that actually want to keep doing this, thank you. But that carries, and we will adjourn. Keep being awesome, and to farms and food forever. Thank you.